Oh, it's really nice in here. How about we check out one of these toilets?
Yeah, just come in here.
Welcome to the Phoenix City Council November 2nd meeting. We'll begin today with an invocation. We're joined by Chaplain Fesmeyer.
Mighty God, I thank you for this day, an opportunity of new life and new opportunities to do good. I ask your continued presence and protection on our leaders, our protectors, and those who do the vital work that keeps our city functional. Oversee and protect the integrity of our upcoming elections. Preserve and raise up leaders who represent the people and not agendas. Leaders who are themselves respectful, humble, filled with character and integrity, who unite, bring peace, security, protection, and honesty in all and to all they serve. Protect this body of leaders in this sacred chamber today and all they represent. In every decision and action, protect their families and this city. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Councilwoman Guardado, would you please lead us in the pledge? We'll now call to order the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilwoman Ansari.
Here.
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Here.
Councilwoman Stark. Here. Councilman Waring.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pastor.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Mario Barajas is with us to provide interpretation. Mario, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Hello, once again, my name is Mario Barajas, and I'll be serving as today's Spanish interpreter for today's City Council formal meeting. I'll now take a moment to introduce myself to our Spanish-speaking audience. Hola, buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a la reunión formal del Consejo Municipal. Mi nombre es Mario Barajas y estaré sirviendo hoy como intérprete a los de habla hispana. De antemano se les pide, si es que van a dar un comentario público, por favor, hable despacio, con claridad y evite tener distracciones de fondo. Finalmente, pause después de cada una o dos oraciones para que se le pueda interpretar lo que esté diciendo de la manera más completa posible. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mario. Will our city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G7043 through 7054, S49119 through 49143, and resolution 22080.
Thank you. Public comment has an important role in Phoenix Council meetings. I'll turn to our city attorney to provide background.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items to be discussed. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the council. General comments that go beyond the scope of the agenda item must be made in the citizen comment session at the end of the agenda. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. The City Code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose their opportunity to continue to speak.
Thank you. Councilwoman Stark, do you have a motion on item 1?
First, I just want to check with Madam Clerk. Did you get my 2 corrections?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much, Councilwoman.
Then I move to approve October 21, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the meeting minutes. Any additional corrections? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Vice Mayor, Boards and Commissions.
Motion to approve Mayor and City Council boards and commissions nominations as revised.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? That passes, and we do have a swearing-in ceremony today. Thank you again to our board and commission members who are willing to serve our community. Raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of. State your board. According to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. Welcome to City of Phoenix service. Thank you for stepping up. Congratulations to our new commissioners. We'll next move to liquor license. The City of Phoenix serves as an advisory role to the state of Arizona. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve items 3 through 10.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Passes unanimously. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, planning, and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
City Clerk, are we ready? Oh, that's you. Sorry. Motions to approve items 11 through 56, except the following. Items 18, 20, 29, 30. Noting that item 25 has additional information. Item 44 is as revised. Item 46 is withdrawn per the November 1st, 2022 Planning and Development Department memo. Items 53, 54 are being continued to December 7th, 2022. Item 56 is being continued to November 16th, 2022. And excluding these items for virtual public comment, item 26. And can the clerk confirm if there are any other items that should be excluded from in-person public comments?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. There are no other items to be excluded, and I did want to clarify that item 26 is the item that has additional information.
Has additional information, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections? Roll call.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia. Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Pastor,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Stark.
could I just, because we're continuing so many of the zoning cases, perhaps when they come back, rather than copying everything again, because if the audience hasn't seen, it's War and Peace, maybe we could just get a summary of the letters of opposition and support the second time around.
I think that is a brilliant suggestion, and I would encourage, we do have a number of, well, we have one case where each sheet is a single person in favor, and they get each their own paper, and that is part of the reason it is so large, and I hope that will be the last time we do this, because we'll be more efficient with our use of resources. Wonderful. Thank you, Councilman Stark, for that. And just to clarify, the public hearings were all continued except for 55, and that one does not have any people registered for comments. It just stays with us because it is a public hearing. All right. Item 18, Vice Mayor.
I'd like to move item 18.
Second.
Motion a second. Any comments? Roll call.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Pastor.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-2.
Item 20, Marketing Services. Vice Mayor.
I move item 20.
Second.
Comments? Roll call.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Pastor.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-2.
Item 26, Phoenix Park Ranger Program. Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move to approve item 26, option 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mayor?
Councilman
I'll
DeCiccio.
second it, but I also like to make a substitute motion in 26 that also includes the Cholla Trail. We just opened up that trail, and it's more of a regional park, and that park is critical. We've had multiple complaints, city staff will tell us about it, of individuals jumping the fence, creating an unsafe situation. So I'd like to make a second and an alternative motion.
And actually, I
Substitute
recognize
motion.
Councilwoman Stark for the second, but we'll recognize you for a substitute motion.
And a substitute motion on that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we need a
All right, you
second.
beat me to it. Well,
Yes,
I'd
so
like-
we now have a new motion on the table, which is the addition of Cholla to Councilman O'Brien's motion. Okay, so we have a second. So the motion on the floor is now Councilman DeCiccio's motion. All right, we have
Just a quick.
Councilman DeCiccio.
Cholla Trail. Here's, and I know there's been a lot of discussion on this, and to the council members, this has been driven by the council. Staff has done everything that the council has asked them to do, the majority of the council to do, and generally that's just just what happens here. There are a lot of times that there are a lot of votes that occur. There are a lot of situations and issues that come up that I just don't agree with and I don't like. But staff takes their directions from the majority of the council, or at least their perception of the majority of the council. And so I'll just be very blunt about it. It's not really them that that are the staff members that are behind this. If there's anyone that it's upset, it ought to be at people like myself and others on this council that have driven this agenda. If there's anyone upset about that, that's who it should be directed toward. I don't think it's fair to direct it at anyone that's on the table here or anyone in the background or anyone else. That's just my personal opinion on this thing. It was just, it's us that have driven this thing. And we've driven it for a while now. And it's because we see what's happening in our parks right now is a problem. And if we don't get ahead of this and start putting security out there as quickly as possible in our parks, we're going to have an issue. We've already got issues. We've had multiple shootings in our parks. We've had multiple drug deals going on in our parks. things that are not even accounted for in the aggravated assaults that are happening. And from my end, I need security in my parks. I just need it there. And if I don't have it there, I'm doing a disservice to the people that I represent. And the security, the fastest way to get there right now is through this. And if sometime in the future, a year from now or 2 years from now, staff can be able to hire, but right now they're not being able to hire. They are not able to hire the park rangers fast. It isn't going to happen. As a matter of fact, we can't even get police hired right now, let alone park rangers and others that are out there. And any delay, any day of a delay in my district in particular, is a problem. So I've got to have the security out there today. I can't wait 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or a year from now. Otherwise, we're going to start looking like some of these cities that we've seen on the West Coast and back east. So I don't have that kind of time to wait. I just don't have that ability to wait in my district. The people in my district need those services today. And so I'm fully supportive of this. It needs to happen immediately or as fast as possible. And if there's another way to do this to where we can start hiring on and then weaning ourselves off of this, great. Then that would be a path of success for everybody. It's a win-win for everybody. But not to move forward with this today, I think would just be a problem for me in my district. And I've got that responsibility to make sure that they're protected, and they're protected today, and those families are able to go in there. But go ahead, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman DeCiccio. Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I get complaints about people not being able to use the parks, not feeling comfortable taking their little children to the parks. That's why we build the parks. We don't really build them for any other purpose. We build them for leisure, so people have outside activities, people have places to take their kids. Anything that's impinging upon that undermines the use of the tens of millions of dollars we spend on our park system. We just spent, I don't know how much money got spent on Cholla, but it doesn't make sense to have people being chased away. And so anything that can help with that is something that I want. And again, this isn't staff asking for it. This is me on behalf of constituents in my district. I'm asking for it. And I think that's part of how, and a few others as well, that's how it came to be here in the first place. One concern I have, Cynthia, and we have talked about this, is I want to make sure, that we know what the people that are going to be hired are actually doing. I want to make sure that they're covering the territory of the parks. So if I get a complaint that there's an encampment or something in one of these parks where we have these folks working, then I want us to be able to get out of the contract and find people who will actually do the work. And I don't think that's unreasonable. I've been frustrated already that some stuff's been overlooked, but I get how short of people you are, how many parks there are, and spread over obviously such a big geographic area. Just travel time alone probably chews up a lot of their day. But I want to make sure we're going down this route, that we have some option. I've been frustrated about the shopping cart program, as you've heard at other meetings. This is not a good situation. A few years ago with the old city manager, Ed Zerker, I complained about security at the libraries. I felt like people were probably not going because they felt a little uneasy with some of the behavior that was being exhibited. This is the same. We build those facilities so citizens can use them to better themselves, feel better about themselves, take their kids to play softball, whatever, and chasing people away is not acceptable. And in this particular case, I want to make sure that these resources are being well used. So could you explain what the options are in terms of the hiring and what the expectation is going to be?
Sure, Councilman Waring, Mayor, members of the City Council. So we would be, if we proceed with the pilot recommendation, we'd be looking to amend the contract with our current security provider who provides the services currently in 3 downtown parks. And so we would amend the agreement. We would make sure that those operational orders, if you will, mirror what is happening in those downtown parks now. And we will work with them to set some measures in place, particularly on reporting and what kind of information they can share with us. But also we'll make sure we specifically address what happens if those security guards are not following those operational orders and how that would be addressed. There is a section, I believe, in the current contract that addresses some of that. But making an amendment would give us an opportunity to be more specific on this exactly if we proceed.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And then every district will have at least one park included in this, correct?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, members of the City Council, it depends what option we proceed with today. So based on some of the feedback we received, we added additional options. One of those options is 1 per council district, and then the other 2 are the original 8, plus the original 8 and a few more.
Let me rephrase. So the option that's on the floor now is Councilman DeCicio's motion. I'm sorry, I wasn't more specific. That's my bad.
Sure, yes, Councilman Waring, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the Vice Mayor and then Councilman O'Brien and then Councilwoman Ansari.
So I really appreciate staff trying to solve a big problem. And nobody's arguing up here that the fact that our parks need to be our parks need to be safe. Nobody's arguing that piece or discussing that piece. The discussion is, what should we do with our parks, and how do we keep them safe, and how do we keep those that are vulnerable in our parks be able to provide the resources that they need or guide them to where they need, especially at the night of third shift, in the sense of these security will be on the third shift. So I just want to put that out there to those. I'm not really sure where the storyline or the tagline of people shouldn't be mad at staff. I'm not really sure who's mad at staff or where that narrative came about, but staff is responsible for providing what people have asked to the council. I had asked for data, and there was no data in this packet. So I don't know who I should be mad at. Should I be mad at my colleagues or should I be mad at staff? I don't know, but that's not the issue. And I just want to put that narrative out there. What we're discussing right now and today, what I understand, and after being prepped yesterday, we're about urban rangers, urban park rangers. There's preserve park rangers, and what I was told, there's urban park rangers. My understanding is that there's 24 or 22, 24 that have been hired, and there are 2 left that need to be hired. Okay. So that makes it 26 urban rangers. These urban rangers, park rangers, have the ability to write citations, yes or no?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, yes, they do.
The security at night from, I think 9:30, 10:30, or I don't know, 8:30 to
8 p.m. to 10 a.m. Yes.
To 10 p.m. Will they be able to write citations?
Vice Mayor, they would not be able to write citations.
Okay, so they wouldn't be able to write citations. All they would do is ask somebody, move along, you can't be in the park, these are the hours. If there's something illegal happening, what ability do they have to do? Something illegal happening, what will they do?
Sure, Vice Mayor Pastor, Mayor, members of the City Council, the way it works now is they would go up to the individual or the group of individuals performing the activity. They would let them know they're in the park after hours, they're obviously performing illegal activity or violating a code of conduct rule, and they would ask them to move on. If they don't move on, they would then contact the police department for assistance.
What would the park ranger be able to do?
In that scenario, Vice Mayor and Mayor, members of the City Council, they would do something very similar. They could trespass, so that would be different. A park ranger could trespass an individual from the park. But again, if they don't listen to a park ranger, the park rangers would also call the police department. They are not allowed to detain individuals.
Okay. I just wanted to put that out there. I'll have more questions later. Thank you.
We'll go to Councilman O'Brien, followed by Councilwoman Ansari.
Thank you, Mayor. Cynthia, how many parks has this service currently?
Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, we currently have 3 downtown parks with security services.
And how long have those parks had this type of security?
The security services at Civic Space Park have been in place since the park opened around 2009, and that's because it's part of our agreement with ASU that security services would be provided due to its location across the street from the university. And then the overnight security services that rove between Civic Space Hants and Heritage Square began around 2013.
Okay. And then, so the last time this contract was approved by the council was when?
2018.
2018. All right. You said the operations are from when?
Currently, the overnight operations in downtown parks are 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
And what will it be for the parks in the pilot?
The pilot recommendation is 8 p.m. to 10 a.m. to allow some overlap with park ranger hours during park closure and opening times.
So that allows us to provide a physical presence in our park prior to closing, and then overnight when many of the calls come in, and then into the first few hours of the beginning of the park.
Councilman O'Brien, that's correct.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about the criteria that was used to select the original 8?
Sure. We looked at information, particularly that we track through our Park Ranger program, and the 3 primary criteria used were the number of visits or calls for service to a park for park rangers, as well as the number of trespass notices issued and the number of, trespasses, highest number for calls of visits, and then also code of conduct violations in the park.
Okay. So Cortez Park, which is a park in District 1, has received 21% of all the calls of the 8 parks that were listed, which is enormous. And in the 18 months I've been on this council, that has been a park of huge concern for my constituents. So I am very excited to support this option that will help to hopefully move along people who are not following our park rules, and support our park rangers and our police officers. How many park rangers do we have, Cynthia?
Councilwoman O'Brien, Mayor, members of the City Council, we have a team of 30 individuals on the park rangers for the urban side. That includes park ranger 2s, 3s, a park manager oversees them, and a supervisor, so that I'm factoring into that number. That team works 7 days a week in 2 different shifts from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m., covering the 185 parks currently.
And how many vacancies do we have?
We currently have 2 vacancies. We were able to fill 10 of those positions over the last few weeks, but we have 2 vacancies currently on that team.
Excellent. I'm very excited to hear that new information. So this pilot program will help to fill a stopgap while we get all of those folks up and on their feet, and also help our police department, who is understaffed as well, correct?
Councilwoman O'Brien, during that overlap period, yes, what it primarily does is put eyes in the parks after hours as well.
Okay. So I do think that the Parks Department has provided, as well as Police Department, information and data to support having this additional tool in our tool belt to provide safety in our parks, a place where we want our citizens to go. We've been trying to activate parks, including Cortez Park, where we have ball fields and basketball courts, Little League tournaments. We have a city pool that was busy all summer long. However, that's just not been enough to keep the illegal activity and visitors to our parks in the after hours. And as recently as 3 weeks, unfortunately, we had a dead body in our Cortez Park Lake. So I wholeheartedly support this item. I look forward to, because it is a pilot program, hearing what kind of impact it makes in due time, whether that's in 6 months or a year. But I really appreciate you moving quickly and swiftly on this and getting the additional folks out. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilwoman Ansari and then Councilwoman Guardado and then Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I just want to start by making clear, I think, to the Vice Mayor's point, I think for me in particular and everyone up here, we all want to keep our parks safe. I support making sure the parks in my district are safe. We address crime that occurs in them, but I really don't believe that this proposal does what we need to do to actually address the hiring challenges and wage increases in our own parks department and that our park rangers desperately need. If private security was the proven solution, that I would be all for it. But the issue is that I don't believe it's been made clear that this would actually solve our problems and not just move the issues that are happening to other areas of our city, whether that's other parks, canals, neighborhoods. The policy that was presented to us a couple weeks ago, that list of parks has now completely changed. We suddenly have, if it was so urgent and if we had, if folks on the dais are saying that we've been working on this for so long, how did that list completely shift from what it was a couple of weeks ago to now include parks in every single district? I don't think it's data driven. But I just really want to focus on this point that has already been touched on a bit about private security versus ranger function. So, Cynthia, you've already said private security cannot write citations, correct? So what would they actually be doing, and can you tell us exactly how that would differ from a park ranger, both differences and similarities?
Sure, Mayor, Councilwoman, and members of the City Council. So currently, rangers do have citation authorities. They can't arrest, they can't detain, but if an individual that they make contact with stays and is willing to engage with them, they can issue a citation, they can issue a trespass notice. A security guard, and the way that this works now downtown, is they patrol the park in pairs. They drive in a vehicle, they go to one park, they get out, they patrol the grounds on foot. They address any park rule violation. So naturally, if they see individuals in the park, they'll educate them and let them know the park is closed. They'll ask them to leave. If those individuals are performing activities that are illegal, they'll do the same. They'll ask them to leave. If people are violating rules like using park amenities for unintended purposes like sleeping on playground equipment or things like that, that's something else to help educate them on and ask them to move on. I will say, one of the greatest benefits we've seen is the deterrence and people knowing that they do come through the parks to minimize some of that activity.
So if we were to put them side by side, they essentially do the same thing, except our park rangers can actually provide citations.
Our park rangers can cite and they can trespass.
Okay, so park rangers have more authority. They're accountable to the city. Now, some mentions were made of very violent things, gunshots being heard, dead bodies. Do you see a difference in how a park ranger versus a private security? I'm just trying to understand why we're not going the park direction route. So in that situation, is there any difference between the two, or will they both need to call a police officer to come to the scene?
If it's a crime, both are going to call the police.
Okay. So now going into our park rangers, how many park rangers, and I think this was already said, but I just want to make sure I have it right. How many park rangers do we have for our 185 urban parks in the city of Phoenix?
28 rangers and 2 supervisory positions, a team of 30.
And how much are we paying our park rangers?
Currently, and I have that if you bear with me, our park rangers' salary range currently is about $37,000 to $56,000 for Ranger 2, $41,000 to about $62,000 for a Ranger 3.
Okay, I just want to put that on the record because I think, we all know that $37,000, even up to the $62,000, is not a livable salary in the city of Phoenix right now. Do we know how that's comparable to other Arizona cities?
In very brief preliminary research, it's very comparable, and I say that because the structure is very different across the cities, across the valleys. Some park rangers are under the police department, the positions are different, and most have very few park rangers in their cities in comparison to us.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm harping on this is we've had discussion time after time. We've said over and over again, our employees are our most valuable resource at the city of Phoenix. We need to appreciate our employees. Now we are talking about
the safety of our parks. We have a function already as a city employee position that's job is to do that. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that my preference would be to be able to spend funds that we have to do whatever it takes to hire more park rangers. Can we add a third shift? Can we, do the exact things that we are hoping to do with the subcontract within our own boundaries? That is what my preference would be. I also don't think that this approach goes far enough to look at the holistic situation. Have we looked at the data in these parks and said, okay, do these parks differ in any way when it comes to the amount of lighting that the park has or the amount of activation that takes place at this park and all of the other things that come with a safe, secure, clean park? Do we compare in those areas as well? And I believe we should be looking at that. And once again, I'm very supportive of keeping our parks safe. I want to make clear that I have gone back and forth on my decision on this particular item because I do hear from my constituents about it. I know it's important. I know there's parks in District 7 that are not safe currently, or people do not feel safe. And whether, it's reality or perception, all of that matters. But what I want to see is investment in our own City of Phoenix employees. I want us to do whatever we can. We went, we completely accelerated the timeline for increasing police salaries because we saw a need, and we did that, and now we're seeing results in hiring within our police department. We can do the exact same thing when it comes to park rangers, especially when, again, you made very clear park rangers have more authority. They can do more to keep our parks safe. So that's where I stand on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Guardado, followed by Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just also want to say I am also very, very supportive of making sure that our parks are safe. I have 2 young children. I actually physically use the parks a lot in my area, and I know that we need more safety. And I think this is more, what's happening right now is just the same thing that happened with our issues with bulk trash. We weren't paying people enough. People were leaving the city of Phoenix. The same thing that happened in the police department. We weren't paying people enough, and people started leaving the police department, right? We saw it with our 911 operators 2 years ago. We weren't paying them enough. We weren't treating them with dignity and respect, and they also started leaving. Once we started looking at these issues, and the same thing with our lifeguards. The moment we started paying a little bit more, people were coming in, and we were able to open up a lot more pools. And here we are today now with this issue in our parks, right? Where if we did have a third, shift, if we did pay more to our park rangers, it'd be a lot easier. I think at this point, we should have figured it out that when these issues come up and we hire more, then we're able to address a lot of these issues, right? I was just in a briefing yesterday with Lori, and we talked about the fact that we had a lot of the drivers that had put in their 2-week notices. They took them back when they saw that they were going to get a $3 raise. So we know what the solution really is to these crises that are happening because we don't pay people enough. That is our biggest issue, because when you take away the 11%, there's a lot of these rangers that actually qualify to put their kids on access. And that should be a huge embarrassment for all of us. And I know that Lori and Jeff, you guys are working extremely hard on that class and comp study, but these issues, all these issues that we're having right now is because we have not done what we had to do to make sure that we pay our workers enough for them to be able to do the job and for us to be able to continue to keep people on. I've seen it on social media, I've seen it on Facebook where right now park rangers are leaving the city because they don't get paid enough. And I think instead of bringing in a security company, I really think that we should be hiring more, right? As the chair of CCI, we were supposed to be dealing with parks. We asked for some time, to come up with a holistic approach, right? To figure out how this really needs to happen. And I'm sorry, Cynthia and Inger, right, that you guys were rushed to bring a solution to the table, right? So congratulations on that for bringing in a rushed approach. But I really do feel that this is not the solution. We all want safety in our parks. We hear it from our constituents. But I just don't understand why is it that we rather give, how much is it, Jeff, between 800 and $1 million to a company, right? That's how much it's going to cost us, right? It could cost us up to 800 right now, and if we kept it for a year, it'd be close to $1 million. Is that roughly right?
Mayor, Councilwoman Guardado, members of the council, the request today is up to $800,000, and that's an annual amount. We're not entirely sure what the exact dollar amount will be until we can work with the security company on their approach and how many staff and the rotation that they will take.
Right, but there's a chance that it could cost more.
I think that's unlikely because we've already done some preliminary research on that, and the approval that we would be seeking would be up to $800,000, so we wouldn't be able to spend beyond that without additional council approval.
So I just think that, we are going to have more accountability in our hands. Right now we're asking security guards to go into our parks, and these are security guards that are not armed. It's 11, it's midnight, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're supposed to go in there and deal with the challenges that are happening inside our parks. And now we're putting more work onto our police officers, which is what we said that we wanted to stay away from, because we wanted them to go deal with different issues. So I think as chairwoman of CCI, I think, Mayor, I would like to make another motion, right?
All right. Our city attorney.
Mayor, members of the council, by rule, we already have a substitute amendment on this. There cannot be another amendment or substitute. There could be a friendly amendment that have to be accepted by the maker and the second, but there can't be another substitute or amendment at this time.
And our current maker are Councilman DeCiccio and Councilman Waring.
Well, my question to Councilman DeCiccio would be, can you, the second motion be a friendly amendment to the first motion?
Well, it depends on what it is. And
okay.
Whether or not the person who made the motion is supportive of that or the second of that.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not going to make a unilateral decision here. I've made a commitment of where I'm going on this, and I'm going to stick with it. So everyone understands how I work. So you're going to have to work with the others and ask them too on the council.
So we'll still, Councilman Guardado still has the floor. So
okay, so I would recommend that in a motion, number one, we evaluate the current park ranger structure and compensation. This would include prioritizing them in the upcoming compensation study, if not sooner, in order to fill the current vacancies. B, simultaneously assess the hiring processes, evaluate the job description, cut unnecessary requirements, and expedite the onboarding. Number two, formation of park ranger third shift. A, work with stakeholders to include but not limited to human resources, ASPATIA, and our current park rangers to form an overnight third shift. This would allow accountability, enforcement, and proper training to deal with the complexities of the issues in our parks. And number three, temporary park ranger incentive program. This would be aimed at incentivizing our current park rangers workforce to take newly created overnight shifts while we wait on the formal creation and recruitment of a third shift. I think these are ideas that I think would address the issues that we're having right now in the parks. I understand what Councilwoman O'Brien says. We need a solution right now, and I think that could be part of the solution. Instead of bringing in a security company, and then we figure out a way, how do we expedite the hiring of more park rangers and working with human resources, even bringing in a company that will help human resources being able to onboard people a little bit faster. I think that's a better solution than bringing in a security company that the only thing they're going to be able to do is tell people to go away. And I think our park rangers have a lot more authority, which I think it's something that I believe we should be moving forward with if we want real solutions and we want to stop a lot of these problems.
Councilman DeCiccio.
I'm sorry, Mayor, and this is going to be a longer response as it always is with me, so I apologize for that response you're about to get. So the answer is no, I would not support that, and I'm going to explain why. We have a budget cycle coming up real soon that can easily be put into the budget. The second thing and this is more of a fiscal issue that staff's been grappling with. We've been pushing, this council as a whole has been pushing for more and more to be done internally. And Jeff, if you could, and I think I know the numbers, but if you could provide every council member up here, not right now because it takes a little research, the average cost per employee for all 13,000 plus employees. If you could just show those numbers. And I want to just give an idea here. The city of Phoenix does not have enough money under the current system that we have to do all these things. The more we take things internally here, the more expensive all services are going to be. In the past, the city of Phoenix has done a really good job of balancing out between what we do internally, managing it, running with it, and hiring enough employees, and also contracting out. I know it sounds bad to some people, but the fact of the matter is we've done that because it's a fiscally responsible thing to do. So I just want to give it a couple examples. The current system that we're on, the pension model that we have, approximately 40 to 42% of all costs related to that employee, because you have to look at numbers too. There's a human element of this, but there's also a cost element of this. And we've always had a really good balance in there. And it's about 40 to 42% of all costs associated with any employee that we take in represents additional cost. So if an employee is getting $60,000 a year, there is about $100,000 to $105,000 is the total cost per employee. I'm guessing our total cost per employee right now is north of $120,000 per employee. So as we add those people on to do the jobs that others have done in the past, it becomes unsustainable. And sooner or later, you're going to have less and less services. Believe it or not, you will provide less service and less ability to get things done to the public under the model that we want to see. The second thing, the pension model that we have here, and I've talked to Jeff repeatedly about this, of creating a bifurcated model where employees, younger employees, do not want this. Okay, they want portability. They want to be able to take their money with them. The current system that we live under right now doesn't allow that. So you're just not going to get those type of employees to work here. Now you can raise the pay enough. Let's say we raise it from $60,000 or whatever the amount is per employee to $80,000. You've got to add another 40 to 42% onto that at all times. So every time we add a cost on, and again, these are numbers, it's not taking the human element, I get it, but every time we do that, you've got to add in additional monies. And our insurance program here is beyond anybody's comprehension. It's that good. So all those things cost, and all those things are part of our employee pay packages. So the individuals that are not being hired on right now, because they're younger, they don't want a pension. They want to be able to take it with them. If we were to create some type of bifurcated system, we would be a lot better off. This is a bigger issue than what we're talking about here. But we're seeing it now with the fire hydrants, and Jeff's heard me talk. I've asked about that too. Like, what's happening there? Well, how are we going to be able to take all these in? We're creating a safety issue with our employees. We have to be able to be more nimble, faster, and be able to deliver a service, but at the same time have a base amount of employees here and have individuals be able to do other types of services. And if we don't like the job that they provide, then we can kick them out. So the other part of this deals with that this is a pilot program. We're there to test it. So that was a lot longer answer why I cannot support that. I'm happy with the way things are right now. I gave my commitment. I'm good with this, and I'm going to stay with where I'm at.
Mayor, just to
Go
finish.
ahead. I'd like to hear it.
Okay, we'll go back to Councilman Guardado, assuming Councilmember Garcia, whose turn is okay with that.
I think
Yes,
so.
that's fine.
Okay.
I thought so.
So I think just in addition, because I just don't think that this is just about pay. I think pay has a lot to do with this. I think it also has, and there's a lot of studies out there that show that activation is also incredibly important, right? When we think about safety in the parks. So in addition, I would also like to give directive for us to be able to go back to CCI and explore a few options. In our preserves, we have a park steward program, and I would like to see options on how we could expand this to our urban parks to allow volunteers and neighborhood leaders to take on a more coordinated role of maintaining the parks. Number two, to work in coordination with our Office of Homeless Solutions to return to the subcommittee with options for outreach services. Number three, to return with a presentation on how we can increase programming in our parks to include but not limited to movie nights, food truck events, farmer markets, sponsoring recreational sports, and other means of activation. I just think activation is the solution. We're seeing it in other cities. We're seeing it in other places that this is what actually works when we want to activate a lot of these spaces. I know, Cynthia, you and I have had conversations about this. I think this is something that the community wants. And when it comes to workers, I think that before we look at numbers, we have to look at people as humans. And I think that is part of the reason we're having all of these issues, is because we've been looking at the numbers for too long and not looking at people as humans. And that's the reason why these humans are leaving us and going to other parts of the Maricopa County for different jobs. And yeah, and every time we subcontract something out, like Councilmember Waring was saying, we're sometimes not happy with the services that they're providing. And once we subcontract out, there is no way to really measure if this is working or not, because they're not within the city. I think that's part of the reason why I like what we're doing with our Office of Homeless Solutions. And I think that's part of the reason we brought it in-house, because we saw that subcontracting that out was not working. And I just think that the more we look at things as numbers and as not as human beings and the work that needs to be done in our districts, I think we're going to continue to see these problems explode a lot more. We're seeing it already. We started seeing it with the operators. The last one was the bulk trash pickup. Our neighborhoods are still not looking the best, but I know that we're working towards a solution. So I'm hopeful that we can look for a real solution and that we stop with these Band-Aids that actually don't work. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to the very patient Councilmember Garcia and then Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you, Mayor. So first of all, I think, adding another park could have been a simple amendment, but also understand the game and how being able to make it a full secondary motion does not allow anyone else to actually present a viable second option. And second, Sal, thank you for explaining it in the way you did, because I think it makes it clear for myself that I fundamentally cannot support us going in the route of replacing good jobs, of replacing our city workers with subcontracting, especially when what we need right now is quality. What we need right now is folks that are going to do the job with the intention of fixing long-term problems. What is happening to our parks and our intersections across the city is real. We have a housing crisis as well as an opioid crisis. These $800,000 should be used to put a real plan together for all of our parks and to figure out both short-term and long-term solutions. There was a short-term solution just presented that we could actually have our own folks that are already trained, assigned, that already have the ability to handle what we need, and yet we're deciding not to use them. We're deciding today that instead of admitting our hiring failures and our inability to keep and value city workers, we are subcontracting non-qualified private security without a procurement process, without a transparent process. We, especially for the fiscally conservative folks on the council, it's mind-boggling to me that we're willing just to add to another contract that is actually a joint contract with ASU without ever setting up expectations or priorities for this new program. We're just going to add and hope and pray that it goes well. We again falling victims to cheap political points and people trying to solve things quickly or pretend to their constituents that they're actually solving something, when we all know all this is going to do is create a false sense of security instead of us actually attacking the root causes. These private security agencies will not have the ability to give tickets or enforce any of the park rules, like that's been mentioned before. And then we go into the problem of how do we select parks? I can, in District 8, can think of over a dozen parks that need resources, that need help, that we should be working on that aren't safe. Like Councilman Guardado, I have a 6-year-old that I frequent parks with. Throughout the game events, we we went to, I think most of us went to all our parks and know the dire needs that they all have, that this isn't going to solve. I think we're all frustrated and deserve the opportunity to find the real and short and long term solutions. That was our goal in the subcommittee. The thought was to actually go back and figure this out. I would appreciate, and I would ask mayor and council to maybe have a work study so that we can all figure this out, or have a full discussion of different options. It's also been portrayed or kind of being pinned down to vote on this, whether we're choosing that we care or we don't care about our parks. I think we all care about our parks. I think specifically in my district or some of the districts of the folks that have shown concerns, I think we're showing concerns because we have the probably most dire situations. We're also currently going through our park strategic plan, a plan that hasn't been updated in 20 years, that has a whole portion on safety and security that's going to give us and allow us to look for a comprehensive way of having this. So I'm gonna vote no on the options, the both options that we were limited to today. Not because I lack the understanding that we have a crisis and our parks aren't safe, but it's with the hope that we actually tackle it with a fully funded strategy, that we're not just reactionary and putting these band-aids out that are actually going to hurt us and are going to put us in a situation where we're going down a path that obviously Councilman DeCiccio appreciates, but I don't think majority of the council appreciates going down this privatization path. And so I'm going to be against this. Obviously, that's what I've spoken about. Have some more questions for staff, but I don't know if there's public comment or where the conversation is going, but definitely we're now going to be against both motions that we were allowed to vote on.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate everyone's comments, and I too want to see us fully staffed with park rangers, and I would like to see evening shifts. We are not open just from 8 to 5 in our parks, but we need a short-term solution, and we do already have security in 3 parks. And from what I can tell, we haven't had a lot of problems or a lot of complaints. I look at security as a visual deterrent. When I go to my shopping center, my Target, there is security. They drive around the parking lot, and I think that probably prevents break-ins into cars. They walk around the stores, and that probably helps prevent theft. Maybe not all of it, but it certainly is a visual deterrent, and I think that's what we need right now. About 6 months ago, I got a call from a resident, and they were in the park. They were activating the park. They had a Little League team practicing. The coach was there, the parents were there, the kids wanted to take a break and go to the bathroom, and one of the parents had the good sense to say, "Let me check first." And he walked in and he saw 2 people using needles, doing drugs. That is unacceptable. I know we need to solve our drug problem, but we also have to make sure our parks are safe for our children, for our families, for everyone. And so I see this as a stopgap measure. I do not think it's the last solution. But again, it has worked well in 3 parks already, and we need to really look at what our park rangers do and how we can activate them in the evening as well. And that's going to take some time. So in the interim, I think we need to have security. I've had this fight with Sal about privatization before on the building inspectors, if you recall, and I don't want to see that. I want us to have park rangers that work for the city, that are proud to work for the city, that do a good job. But we're not there yet completely. So in the interim, we need this. I just don't see them being a problem. Again, if they have been, we would be hearing about it, correct? Have we had very many complaints?
Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, members of the City Council, we've been trying to pull data. It's hard to get data to confirm that number, but what I can tell you, or a number, I should say, what I can tell you is that what we're not seeing in the parks that are having the services, the security services currently. We're not seeing the incidents of vandalism that we have seen in some of the other parks. We're not seeing as much drug paraphernalia being left in the parks. And so those are the kinds of things that we're not seeing. And that rolls over into the morning, right, into the daytime hours as well. And so what is not happening in the night makes the park a slightly different situation the next day.
Thank you. And again, I see it as a visual deterrent. I really do think that security works well with police. We have security all over our city, and I haven't heard it be problematic. And if security has to call the police because someone's doing drugs, guess what? It's a police job to get to that park and make sure they're not breaking the law. And so I think, you know, I realize that maybe it'll place additional work on the police, but in this case, I think it's okay because our children and our families are in our parks. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Waring, then Councilman Ansari.
Thank you, Mayor. So Deb raises an excellent point about the graffiti and stuff. It's not just people that they'll be monitoring, but also the general atmosphere. I wouldn't expect them to just walk by a big blotch of graffiti on one of the buildings in the parks or something and not report it. That should be taken down. That kind of blight, it makes it an unwholesome atmosphere, an unfriendly atmosphere. I would never use the word solution for this. This isn't a solution for anything, but it's better than the nothing that we have right now. And I understand these people can't go out and make arrests and so forth, but you know what? Pretty soon the people who are causing problems in the park are going to come to understand, yeah, about 10 minutes after I see that guy who's telling me to leave, a police officer shows up, and then it's an issue, a bigger issue. So that's not a bad thing at all. I mean, citizens call us, and police respond to that. I get calls, and we immediately send it to police, and they respond to that. This isn't any different, except these people are paid to be out there and to do this. And we're spending $107 million. We just had a discussion on this, on the homeless situation. How much do we spend running our parks program every year, Cynthia?
Mayor, Councilwoman Waring, as I'd have to look at the number for the park ranger program to be able to answer that. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, your whole budget to have parks for citizens.
Over $100 million. Yeah.
So we're trying to make this $100 million investment a little more user-friendly for the people who are actually paying for it. That makes a lot of sense to me. If people don't want these services in their districts, find some more parks in District 2, and we'll take them. Happy to have them. Because I think citizens are actively asking for this, even if when they contact me, they don't totally understand. They just want some folks who are making the parks an inhospitable place to not be engaging in those behaviors in the parks anymore. And that's not an unreasonable request when they're pitching in $100 million of taxpayer money every year to have parks in the first place, to take their kids. So we can say we're not disputing that issue, but at this point, I would say those of us who are supportive are trying to make a good faith effort to make our $100+ million a year investment a better investment, a more user-friendly investment for the people who are actually paying for it and wanting to use it for wholesome reasons, and then also try to maybe find something that might work, and if this is that something, great. If it's not, we'll move on to Sal's point and try to do something else. But the status quo is not acceptable, and it's getting worse by the day. I said the same thing about the libraries a few years ago. I just couldn't believe going to Burton Bar Library, the behavior I was seeing exhibited, and some of the other libraries too. I thought, you know, I loved going to the libraries with my mom when I was a kid. That's where I learned to love reading. That's a good, wholesome activity. It's a good thing for kids to learn. It happened to work with me. I don't know if it benefited anybody besides me, but I was happy to have that skill. I'm like, I wonder if my mom would have taken me to the library if we would have been seeing the obscenities, the plumes of smoke right outside the front doors and stuff. I don't know. Very debatable point. And I think about how many parents might be making that decision and not contacting a council office, and so you don't know. So I asked, and we did, more security at some of our libraries, because it was really getting out of hand, and it seems a lot better now. I go to a lot of different libraries just frankly to check. I like to see kind of what's going on. This is really no different. And I think it would be misguided to say, we are not going to try anything, we're going to study it, and then maybe somewhere down the road we'll find some extra money to hire some permanent people. We need people right now. These security companies, this is what they do for work. We're already doing this in 3 parks, so in the southern part of the city. And I think it's a good thing to try to expand this, given that there really haven't been any complaints. Nobody's been standing up here at public comment or something complaining about these security guards. And it sounds like, according to Cynthia's testimony is too highfalutin a word, but her comments, it seems like it's helped. And your point is a good one, Deb, about the graffiti and stuff. Just getting rid of that stuff really helps. That's why we have the shopping cart program. That's why we have a graffiti program. Makes the city more livable. So I think this is something we should move forward with, and then if it works, see if we can do some more. If we can hire park rangers, that's great too. Nobody's saying don't do that. It's not either or. But definitely something has to be done, or we should scale back how much we're spending on parks. And I don't think anybody wants to do that, because if they're going to get less utilized, and that's the stuff I keep hearing, is that people are a little leery now of going to some of these places, then you know what? We got to make that decision. I don't think that's a decision we're going to make. So we got to maximize the usage for the parks that we have. And this is one way, one small way, to move towards that goal, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to Councilwoman Ansari.
Thank you. Couple of thoughts and questions. I think, with all due respect to my colleagues, I don't think anyone here is suggesting that today we do nothing. I think we all know the status quo is not okay. We all want our parks to be safe. What I understood from the suggestion for a friendly amendment is that we have this $800,000, up to $800,000. Why can we not spend this exact same pot of money towards hiring park rangers and doing whatever it takes to expedite? And I guess for those numbers, Inger or Cynthia, I'm curious from you, if we were to determine today that right now we could add a night shift to our park rangers, right now we could implement hiring incentives, right now we could, what timeline does that take? Do we really need a stopgap of a full year to make that up? Or if we were to go all in on this, can we make an impact there?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Ansari, that's a great question. What we could do would require more time than what has been asked of us in the 3-person, 4-person memo that came to us requesting immediate action. And so the proposal that has been put forward is something that can be implemented more or less immediately within a 4 to 6 week time frame. That's a much shorter time frame than we could implement an addition of park rangers and or hire additional park rangers. Even with a salary increase, even with an incentive, it would take several months, probably best case scenario, 4 to 6 months to implement those types of things. We would still have to study the salary, we would have to implement an incentive, and we would have to go through hiring processes, which, even though Cynthia mentioned we've been able to, in the last several weeks, bring on 10 park rangers, that didn't happen in the last couple of weeks from start to finish. That was a multi-month process to get to actually onboarding those additional rangers. So these things don't have to be mutually exclusive, but the proposal that we're putting forward today is intended to be a temporary stopgap measure, to what some have utilized today as that terminology, to have an immediate approach to address the safety issues in the parks. And then, we are actually already looking at compensation for park rangers as part of the class and comp study. And we have other tools like the incentives mentioned that we can implement to expedite some of that hiring and making sure that we're retaining quality rangers in our program. But doing something that would be implemented in a very short period of time is not necessarily viable given our processes and the things that we would need to go through to put those in place. So we can conduct some of those activities, just not in the immediate time frame that's been requested.
But if the same amount of money were to be used to, and I'm just spitballing, to implement hiring bonuses, to someone suggested bring someone on to help us with expediting these processes, to add a 3rd shift, why can we not do that? It just seems crazy that as a city of Phoenix, we cannot make that happen in a couple of months. And to me, it would be better to wait a couple of months and have an actual solution that works with quality employees who work and are dedicated to the city of Phoenix, who actually have authority. There's a lot of language being put out about fiscal responsibility. How is it fiscally responsible to spend money on privatizing a core function of the city of Phoenix when they have no authority? They're just driving around, and we talk about downtown. Some of these downtown parks are in my district, and we're forgetting the fact that there's also increased police patrol happening downtown. We also have ASU police. We also shut down some of the bathrooms. There's a lot of other reasons why maybe we're having less issues at Hans Park than we are in some of these other parks. And to say that it's a proven solution to have privatized security, to me, is not the case. And again, 4 to 6 weeks is still not immediate. We could wait a couple months, use the same pool of money, and support our own park ranger program. That's all I'm saying. I don't see why, we would never talk about privatizing police officers. Park rangers are a core function of the city. That's some of the bread and butter of what we do. So that's where I would like to see us focus our funds if we have $800,000 to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the Vice Mayor and then I will make some comments and then go to Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you. I'm hearing the term status quo, stopgap. But Lori, I disagree with you. And there's many reasons why I disagree with you. Because yesterday we spoke and you said, oh, this is a short term. And I said, no, I don't think this is a valuable short term piece. And I stated, and I said, why don't we make a third shift? We currently have park rangers that we could look at and make a third shift with our current rangers and actively recruit for the last 2 of the urban rangers. Then I was told, well, no, that's difficult. I have to go back and talk to the groups. And you didn't tell me that. Cynthia told me that. It's really difficult. We can't do that. So I accepted that answer as of last night. But this morning, what I found out is we did have park rangers that did do third shift. There was a third shift. I also found out that there is the possibility, because I did talk to some of the employees and the labor groups. I did talk to them and said, would you willing to be doing a third shift? Because we are in this crisis, and they said yes. We would also like to see if there's going to be a third shift, because third shift in all our safety areas have incentives and additional dollars for working at night. So that's where I disagree with you, because there is a short-term solution. The other piece is the 4 to 6 weeks. This solution can happen in 4 to 6 weeks. As we then move quickly to then start to fill all our other ones, we could do this in 4 to 6 weeks and provide the solution to my counterparts. So that's where I'm not on the same page. The other thing, what I know about 4 to 6 weeks, is you're asking security, right? Right now, they don't have enough employees. And there's a reason why they don't have enough employees. We have Super Bowl coming. And when Super Bowl's coming, there are a lot of security firms and places that are right now hiring for Super Bowl. The issue is you have to have a certain license in order to be in the security arena. That delay is happening right now because DPS can't move. They're 2 months backlogged right now, and they can't move fast enough because of a shortage. So maybe we should privatize there and help with DPS and ask them, can you move this quickly so then we can get our security guards in our parks? My point is that there's a domino effect, and we aren't going to get the security in 4 to 6 weeks. But we can, in 4 to 6 weeks, look at our park rangers, go talk to our park rangers, and ask, we're going to do a third shift. Here are all the different possibilities. Are you willing to help us? And that conversation has not been had.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, if I may just address that quickly. The It is not a question of whether our park rangers would be willing to support this effort. We have an excellent team and very dedicated staff who I believe would go above and beyond to perhaps even volunteer to be part of the third shift. The question is, do we have enough staff total to staff 3 shifts? And the answer to that is no, unless we have much smaller shifts than we have now, which I wouldn't recommend that we downsize the first and second shift in order to create a third shift. Our recommendation would be to add positions to create the third shift, which would require additional individuals to work those positions and to increase our total staff of the ranger program in order to have 3 full shifts rather than splitting the first and second shift into the third shift.
So I understand that, but why don't you ask the park rangers? Why don't you ask the park rangers, look, we're in a crisis. How can you help us? Instead of us making executive decisions, let's ask them.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I am going to be supporting this item. Safety is a top priority for us at the City of Phoenix. I believe it's wise to try multiple different strategies. I really enjoyed joining Councilman Ansari earlier this week when we did a hiring event and we were able to hire several individuals for our Parks Department. I will continue to try to support that effort. I think this makes sense. We have used a similar tool at several parks, and I believe the results have been good. Another item I consider is what input we have from our voters. We had a vote on a proposition called 300 related to transit security, and it asked our voters would they consider private security to support transit security, and they overwhelmingly said yes. It was 78% approval. It passed in every council district, and so that is something I also consider in situations that have some items in common. What have the voters said? And that was a pretty strong approval. So I hope that this policy makes sense, and I'll continue to support our amazing Parks Rangers. I want to continue to invest in Parks Rangers. I'm proud that we have grown that program during my time at the city and want to continue to do so in that area. And now I will go to Councilwoman Guardado and then Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mayor. Cynthia, just a question. How long would it take, how long did the security company said it would take to onboard the new security that they need to fill these positions?
Sure, Councilwoman Guardado and Mayor, members of the City Council, the current provider has informed us they would need a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks to get guards into the parks that we have on the list.
Thank you for that. Lori, how long is it going to take us to give the drivers the wage increase that we just approved, or that you guys just recommended?
So the incentive increase, is that what you're talking about?
The $3 increase.
Yes, so that will go into effect at the end of November.
So about 4 weeks, 6 weeks?
From start to finish, it was probably 6 to 8 weeks.
Right. So I just think that, first I want to say, and hopefully everyone can listen and everyone can understand, I don't think I'm against having safer parks. I'm the first one to advocate for safer parks. That's the first thing. And I just hope people can stop saying that we are saying that we don't want to have safety in the parks. The second thing is that, I get it that there's a lot of us, that a lot of these areas we've not put a lot of money into the areas like West Phoenix, South Phoenix. And I think that it's only fair to say is let us decide, let our constituents decide what type of programs they want to see happen in their parks. Like if you look at this proposition, you have other council members deciding what's going to happen in West Phoenix and in South Phoenix. And I just don't think that's right. I get it that that's been the norm for a very long time, but we were hoping to be able to change that. There's a lot of vocal council members on this council now, and I think that we understand the pulse of the districts are very different. District 2 and District 5 are very different, and the needs are very different, right? And to say that I don't want security in my parks is wrong. So I just want to put that on the record. I think that we have to get more creative, and we continue to do the same thing all over again. We continue to subcontract out, thinking and hoping and praying that this is going to work and that it's going to be the solution. And we continue to see failed programs in the city of Phoenix and things that we continue to put money into and that then we continue to be frustrated about. And we only take action at the moment that becomes a crisis. And I really hope that we can really look at this, that we would look at this from a different lens, and that a lot of us that do have a lot of the affected areas that have the higher numbers would have been respected, and they would have given us a chance to figure out what's the solution. I believe we brought a solution, an immediate solution today. I do think that we would be able to onboard a little bit faster if we gave the HR department the support that they needed to be able to make this happen. So it is very frustrating to hear some of the narrative, but just, to put everything in perspective, like I do want security in my parks, but I think all of our constituents, the areas are different, and I think our constituents know exactly what is it that they want to see. We look at what's happening in the light rail right now. If you go and you talk to my constituents over in 19 North, over by Glendale, and at Northern, and where the light rail stops, people are not happy. People are not happy with the security company. That's the reason why. How much money are we spending, Lori, on the 27th Avenue plan and on the 19th Avenue plan?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Mardado, we're spending approximately $6.5–7 million total on the plans combined.
And I think that's money well spent, but I don't think we would have had to spend that money if security was the answer, right? We see everything that's happening in all of our light rail stops. We see the fentanyl. We see all the drugs that are being used, and we get it. Our security guards are not meant to deal with those type of situations. And if you go talk to people in District 5 and you talk to people that live in that area, they're really upset. And they're upset at the solutions that have been brought forward. And I think they're also going to be really upset to see the securities at the parks, because what's going to happen now is that now I'm going to getting phone calls that now we have people in the alleys and we're just moving people along. And I just wish that we would have looked at that. At least for me in D5, that's part of the big problem that I see and what's going to happen. And if we do this at Maryville Park, then they're going to go to Maryview Park. And then Laura's going to start getting the calls. And from there, they're going to move to Desert View, right? And then Councilwoman Ansari is going to get the calls. I just don't think that we're comparing apples to oranges, and I just wish we just would have had a different solution. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilman Waring and then Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. The mayor was right to bring up the, I think it was Proposition 300 vote on the transit. That was an excellent example that I had neglected to mention. We are also on the Public Safety Committee led by Councilman O'Brien, trying to look at potentially not having police give out traffic tickets by schools and stuff. Or not traffic tickets, but parking tickets by schools and stuff like that. Stuff that you don't necessarily have to have a gun and a badge to do. So we are sort of outsourcing some of those activities to free up police officers for more intense activities, shall we say. This is a lesser version of that, to my mind. We're trying to have eyes on so people can help tell police, hey, we've got this issue. I am always respectful and receptive to the argument that our districts are different. My district, I get it, is very different. Cynthia, you and I had talked about that. And where parks in my district rank in terms of issues, and it was a lot lower than frankly, the other districts. But there's no way that citizens in my district that I represent, because I go around and talk to them too, just like the rest of you do, are receptive to the activities that they're seeing. And I think this is the course of action that they would prefer. If there is some other course of action that would work better in other districts, I'm open to having that discussion, but then I'll take the leftover security people, because I think that's the expectation in District 2. I'm not speaking for the expectation in other areas. I don't think we need to study this and so forth. We've already studied it. It's already been used in 3 parks by the company that we're talking about using. To the argument about the light rail, people are unhappy because I've heard from them. It's the product that was created has created an atmosphere that now people don't want to use it. It's not probably so much the security company, is that there's no way to police the entire thing. There's too many trains, too many miles, etc. And so people are pretty frustrated. I've heard from them, and I don't even have this in my district, but one ride, there are an awful lot of people where I knock on their door and like, well, I took one ride on that thing, not doing that again. I'm sure they'd be receptive to more security people. It's probably not the quality of the security people, it's the lack of security people compared to the expansive problem. But light rail was a city-generated problem. I won't go off on a light rail thing, but we didn't have to do that. But city parks have been around for a long time in cities, not just ours. We're not getting rid of the city parks, as we just sort of alluded to earlier. So if we're not going to get rid of them, we better make them safe and usable. And this is one way to make that happen. I believe that would work in District 2. If it's not perfect for other areas, have a discussion about what might work. I'm not sure what that would look like. I think the best thing is to have people looking for trouble, finding it, reporting it to police or park rangers, and addressing it immediately. I do think that'll probably shift the problem around. So some of the parks that are high on Cynthia's rankings for trouble spots, that'll probably shift. When we place them at one spot, then it'll probably shift to another park, and then we'll probably have to kind of move around or hire my security people if we feel like this is working. It sounds like it's already been working at the 3 parks. That's what we hire a parks director for, is to tell us this stuff. We're not at those parks. The person who is ultimately responsible for this is sitting right there, and she's saying it worked at the 3 parks we're already doing it at. I have no reason to disbelieve that. Seems to know what she's talking about. We trust her on a lot of other stuff. Why not this? So I just want to respond to some of the comments I heard, but I completely understand the argument that it's different in different areas of the city. I am simply trying to reflect what I think constituents would want in District 2, and I think are frankly demanding. So thank you.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. I likewise would like to say that I don't pretend to represent constituents in other districts, and that all of our residents and constituents may have different desires or needs. But Cortez Park was on the original list, and no one consulted with me prior to it being withdrawn from that subcommittee's agenda. And my constituents do want their parks to be safe. They do want security who are going to enforce the rules we have for our parks so that they can use it with their families. I am not pretending to make a decision for my fellow council members, and like some of my other fellow council members, if you don't want the security in your parks and there are other solutions, then I'm happy to have the extra security. I have constituents who are mad because I don't have a second park. And as it relates to leading with services and activating parks, every time I meet with or attend a coffee with a cop in my district, I hear our commanders talk about times when they go out with Phoenix Cares, with CBI, with neighborhood services, and talk about leading with services. The city of Phoenix leads with services. That means we ask folks, do you need help? And they talk about, we talked to 97 people, 3 people took services. We talked to 75 people, 2 people took services. And now there's a new game. They know if they say that they ask for services, and then when services, they don't get in trouble with the police, and then when services show up, they tell them, no, I don't want them. Or maybe they go into services, and in a day or 2, they leave them. Now, some folks, I believe, are using services, and it's helping, but it is disheartening to go to those community meetings and hear that we lead with services, and folks aren't accepting them. I am all about finding a whole solution and attacking it from multiple places. But this is what my constituents want, need, and deserve. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We take safety very seriously, and this council is doing a wide variety of things to make our communities safer. We've invested more in mental health and trying to support addiction recovery than any city council from Phoenix before us. We continue to work with our partners at Valley Metro, which recently approved a raise for the private security. A raise? Yes.
Approved and more salary, a raise.
Right. So I think it's important to do multiple different things. We can do that because the 76.6% of voters in Phoenix supported Proposition 300. We can't rest. We have to continue to innovate. This council has taken very important steps forward on safety among pedestrians and in our streets. We got to do lots of different things and continue to address new challenges. And I'm proud that we've stepped up in a variety of different ways, including more social workers, more clinicians, more people who have lived experience. The world keeps evolving, and the city of Phoenix has to meet those challenges. Do we have any additional comments? Councilman, sorry.
Yep, 2 comments, and then I'm just going to explain my vote. Councilman Waring, we are not privatizing police positions. I just do want to mention that. We are civilianizing them within the same department. So it is a little bit different than this because those are still police department positions with the same benefits of a city employee, whereas in this case, we are outsourcing and have no control over that. So, and I very much support civilianizing those positions in PD, and I think those police assistant positions are great. Number 2, I think to Councilwoman O'Brien's point, you know, I understand, I think there's been a lot of discussion around this item, and I understand, you know, maybe the item was withdrawn and I don't know who was consulted or who wasn't, but for example, I also was not consulted when this memo came forward from the other council offices, even though there are parks in my district. So I think that issue kind of goes on both ends. I think we all would have benefited from more robust discussion, just like every other item. You know, in public safety, we talk about the police crisis for every single month, and we come up with better solutions. We civilianize positions, we've raised wages, we have better results when we have time for that robust conversation. So I wish we would have had the same for this. The reason I am voting no on this item today is because I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's strong enough. It doesn't mention anything about our own employees. It doesn't mention anything about raising wages for park rangers. It doesn't do anything. We're going to talk about how we're going to do those things, but we're not actually voting on that today. So because of that, I will be voting no. I want parks to be secure, but I don't want to waste our money just to make ourselves feel good, feel like we're doing something when it's just going to push around the problem. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, did you raise your hand? Vice Mayor.
Thank you. There is an example, or there was a statement made that we don't necessarily have data, but what we can see that vandalism is not as high and not seen in the public park drugs or needles. My question to you is, do you think that if we had a third shift of park rangers, would we have the same result?
Vice Mayor Pastor, mayors, members of the City Council, I don't know honestly that I could answer that. I think that's why this is intended to be a pilot. We don't know exactly what will happen in the pilot. Are these the right hours? What are we going to see exactly in these parks overnight? Right now, we don't have rangers in the parks overnight, so we don't really have a baseline to compare to because there are no eyes in the parks currently other than in those downtown parks.
I guess I'll reframe my question. The statement is we need to have eyes in the parks. And when we have eyes in the parks, vandalism, graffiti, needles, anything else, activities go down. So eyes in the park and the 3 parks are security. My question is, if we have eyes in the parks that are park rangers, do you think we would get the same results?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Pastor, yes, honestly, I think that we could achieve similar results. It's going to achieve eyes in the parks overnight.
Because I think we will get the similar results, and I will get more because they can write citations. The other piece is, how much do the security guards get paid?
Vice Mayor, I have that information. The current wage that we pay, or rate that we pay for our current security company, is $23.90 an hour.
Okay, thank you. What my final statement is that we talk about kids and families not wanting going to the park, and then we talk about kids and families being in the park, but having to go to the bathroom, and there's items happening in the parks. Those items are obviously happening in the day because I don't think kids and families are out late at night Our bathrooms are closed. So if it's happening in the day and we have park rangers and staff that roam our parks, I'm not sure if this is going to deter the behavior. And I really think deterring a behavior is really citing. But we can all argue against that. The other piece is that I got a call from a resident. A woman was a little off, having a mental breakdown. She was running around the park completely naked. There were soccer games going on, families that were there. The constituent called, and the constituent was told by police that that was a low priority call. So I don't know how any different it would be with security other than having eyes on the park and, vandalism and some of these things, but I think we would have that with our park rangers and plus. How that would even change if a security person happened to be there and that happened, they would have called the police and gotten the same answer. So I think we're all in the space that we do want our parks safe. We all are in the space of how do we do that. We all have, there's been 2 short-term suggestions of how we can get there. And really, the short term, we can get there with what we have today. It's just being creative in how we get there. Secondly, it's a matter of really sitting down and putting a long-term plan. And I did some research yesterday, pulled up research, did research on urban parks that are the same size as us in different cities, looked at their pay, looked at what they did. But one of the areas that I was most interested in is activation. And I think that should be a middle-term goal. I know there's a long-term goal. It could be possibly a short-term goal. To keep our parks healthy and safe, because I don't want our parks, we invested, as Councilman Waring has stated, we invested millions and millions of dollars into our parks, and we don't want our parks empty. We want them vibrant. We want our neighborhoods vibrant and safe. And activation isn't expensive, because according to the studies done by the National Recreation and Parks Association, it can be as simple as yoga classes, Zumba, after-school activity vans, even a food truck night that happens within the Willow neighborhood that could activate those areas. It'll take a lot of effort and a lot of us to work together to lift that within our communities, but once they find out it's a safe space and a space to go, I believe we brand it and we brand our parks. The other things is park rangers in this study are the best activation that you can do. Cities Parks Alliance, which you probably know of, shows successful active small parks increase their property values by 5%. Our citizens will always want to increase their values, their property values. So I feel it's our responsibility to help them to increase their values and also be able then to keep everybody within that area safe and outside. But the end of the day, it's the park rangers that will do that. Because my end goal is to get park rangers in to be able to have the authority to cite. And so I'm hoping, because this is probably going to pass, I'm hoping the 3 of you that make more than me come up with another short-term goal, a mid-term goal, and a long-term goal that works for all of us. And it could be a variety of things. Because at the end of the day, I'm not the one that's going to come up with it, but I did. I took the time, and I don't have the expertise, really yesterday, to really do all the research to find these answers, to come up with short-term and long-term goals, along with a lot of my other colleagues. So I'm hoping, because I have a lot of hope, that this happens. And this is not the responsibility of just staff, it's also the responsibility of the city manager and assistant city manager to help. So I will be voting no on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you to our staff for always looking for new solutions. We are one of the most innovative cities in the country. And now we will go to our very patient residents. We will start on the phone with Ana Hernandez, followed by Luke Black.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. My name's Ana Hernandez, lifelong resident of Phoenix, incoming state senator for Legislative District 24 over in Maryville, and also a constituent of District 4. I heavily oppose this measure because, once again, a majority of the council is focusing on band-aids instead of solutions. Like, nobody's really talking about, not a majority of the council is talking about actual solutions that would address the issues that we're seeing. If we actually took funds and addressed our housing crisis and harm reduction services and resources for our folks that struggle with mental health and with substance use, that's what would really keep our parks safe. It's interesting to hear Sal talk about the financial impact of bringing on additional park rangers or paying the park rangers more, because he's adamant about paying police officers more, but the same energy is not here for park rangers. So that's pretty interesting. Again, I heavily oppose this because we want our park safe, but not by private security. We want to see real solutions that address our housing crisis, our substance use issues, our climate crisis also. And we need to offer more services to our constituents that are out there so that they are able to use the parks. Bringing in private security, all you're doing is, to the point of one of our council members, you're just moving people to another location. We're not doing anything to actually help our people. So again, I highly oppose this measure and would urge the council to vote against this. I yield my time.
We'll go next to Luke, followed by Ginny Ann.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Luke. I live in Phoenix District 5. Washington Park is where I go. I work second shift, and so I am in that park after hours pretty much 3 or 4 times in a week walking my dog. The only people that are in that park are folks that are sleeping. Like, we are literally criminalizing people's lives, like average behavior, right? And this is not the first time we've had this conversation. We had this conversation in 2018 and 19 when we originally began the process of expanding the park ranger program. At that time, I lived by Pierce Park, which is also on this list, which also has a high number of folks without homes that sleep in that park at night. These exact same questions, the exact same points that council members have raised today were raised then, and they have not been addressed. To speak, we need to be addressing mental health support, we need house support, and we also need substance use support. Those are things that are going to make our parks safe and keep our streets, keep people that are using our parks safe as well. This council has illustrated one consistent thing, which is that you will expand the police department at any cost. This will lead to a larger police department. The contracts with private security are going to expire in a couple of years, and those duties are just going to get passed on to more police, which will mean more police in our neighborhoods. It will mean more police in neighborhoods of color, black and brown neighborhoods that are already over-policed. Like, you all are not providing a solution to any problems, but you are providing another way to increase policing of black and brown people in this city. Thank you.
Ginny Ann is next, followed by Rebecca.
Mayor, members of the council, as a teacher, I spent many hours on playground and bus duty. I learned that just being visible was the most effective tool I had to influence good behavior. The issues for Pierce and Perry Parks are bad behavior, such as the use and selling of drugs, and the lack of respect for our shared public spaces. With the shortage of police and rangers, private security makes sense. Mayor Garrigo, you helped dedicate the Mary Moore Playground at Pierce Park. You understand Pierce is for families. Councilman Garcia, you were at Pierce and you heard the neighbors' comments and concerns. I respectfully request the mayor and the council to support either option 1 or 3 that would include both Pierce and Perry Parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca is next, followed by Christopher Martinez.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, hi. Thank you. My name is Rebecca Denis. I live in District 7. Interestingly enough, I live on Willetta Street and 3rd, right around the corner from where you already have security. I have never seen them out patrolling the park. Not at night. I'm there pretty late sometimes walking my dog. I see them parked in their car. And also, I don't see anyone else really trying to enjoy the facilities of the park between the time of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning. To spend $800,000, nearly $1 million, in a pilot program that could ultimately fail, when we know that what we need right now is housing to address a housing crisis, we need different harm reduction solutions. If you do not want people doing drugs in your park, then offer a safe space for them to do it. Because the reality is having CBI or some type of crisis response come in the moment when someone's probably already high or not in a great mental state, and expecting them to receive services is insane. That is not how people accept help. That is not how it works. And if any of you have ever been through our behavioral health process here through Maricopa County, it's horrendous. Sometimes you wait weeks as someone with an SMI diagnosis, which I've experienced with my brother, weeks just to get a psychiatric appointment. What we should be using this money for is immediate crisis response. We need a housing first initiative. If you want to see your parks not have these issues, then what we need to do is provide the basic human rights that people need to where they can even be in a mental place where they could receive any type of care. And I just want to highlight something. In this proposal, it says the park rangers are an integral part of the Phoenix Community Action Response Engagement Services. The impact of homelessness does not affect me and you who have a home, who have access to food, who have access to the things that we need. It impacts the people that are living on the streets, who don't have a restroom, who don't have anywhere.
Christopher is next, followed by Karen.
Hello, my name is Christopher Martinez. I'm a resident of Lower Pastores District. I oppose this measure. After watching this, I understand that my conclusion is that it's going to pass regardless of public input. And as per usual, people's minds are made up prior to public comments. People are put on agendas, items are added a day before they're addressed, which does not give people a chance to organize and mobilize to adequately respond to these types of measures. I think adding another level of policing is wrong. It doesn't work. I think we need more services. I think understanding that right now we're in a severe housing crisis, severe, extreme. I talk to people weekly who have just lost their housing or about to lose their housing because their rents increased beyond what they can pay. I talk to people living in their cars and their cars are broken and they have nowhere to go and they go in the restrooms in the park to wash up and clean up. And instead of addressing some root causes, you're going to the other end, which is more policing. And this is a pilot program, but not for just plain security. We know what this is a pilot program for. It's for more policing later. And we need to respond in a humane way. And this is not a humane way. This is a crisis. People who are utilizing the park are in a crisis. The people you are wanting to chase away are in crisis. and addressing crisis with policing does not work. And I appreciate some of the responses from some members questioning legitimacy of this. I do not appreciate Mayor Gallego using this as a platform for whatever comes next in her political career. This is
Karen is next, followed by Jessica.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. My name's Karen. I live in District 4 here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm going to talk about the thing that the council did not, beings. That is the most important thing to think about, to take care of. And each one of you have chosen to be in these positions where you get to have this power and talk about how important parks are and what that can be and how that brings joy for families. But families don't have to look only the way you see them. Families can look like an individual wanting to relieve themselves from the heat, and they don't have a home. Housing is a human right. And if all you have is a park, you deserve that space just as much as kids do, just as much as the people around them do that have homes near the parks. Every single one of you needs to sit with the fact that you don't think about the humans. Every single one of you, I've been sitting here and listening. We're talking about the park. And that's wonderful. The park can be part of this too. The most important thing is the human beings there. And it shouldn't be that we should try to criminalize them. We should try to see them as the humans that we are as well. It's not acceptable that the only thing that this council does time and time again is want to criminalize and police over and over. We want so much police that we want to become the police. We don't even want to be in community together. We're so fearful of what? We have to sit and be uncomfortable. Just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean you need to police the situation. It means you need to have conversations. You need to stop. You need to listen. Everyone deserves safety, and that includes the people that are houseless. That includes the people that don't vote, because you chose seats of power that respect the land that they're on as well. We all deserve that respect.
Thank you. Jessica is next, and then we have Ana Juarez registered to speak if necessary.
Hello, my name is Jessica Spencer. I am a student at ASU for social work, Navy veteran, disabled veteran, using my benefits to do so. I live around the corner from CAST. I've been to many of these meetings before. Not as many as Luke, and as Luke noted, this will just lead to more policing when the contracts expire. And being literally right around the hub of all this police activity, I'm obviously not happy with what I see, and I talk about it pretty often. As Waring noted, y'all literally just want to play whack-a-mole and push people around. This has been proven so many times in so many studies as not fixing anything. I can only expect that most of you have your pockets in these contracts for security and for these temporary shelters that go up for millions of dollars and have a shelf life. I'm so tired of your corruption, and I know nothing I say will change it. I am purely here to share my spite of this system that was built for no one but those whose pockets benefit from it. I am constantly seeing this police brutality, and this is what it's going to lead to. You guys are punting it off to private security, and as been noted, it doesn't do anything. It does nothing. We need human solutions. We need housing solutions. We don't need more policing. I will not thank you. You're not even worth my time, but I am here for others. I despise you.
We'll ask Morgan to come down to the podium, and then Ana is registered to speak if necessary. Ana, would you like to provide testimony?
Hello, hi, good evening. I'm Ana Juarez, Vice President of McDonald's, AGK Restaurants with McDonald's. And I am very familiar with the issue that we are facing right now. We currently have 25 restaurants, close to 1,600 employees, and we're currently going through severe issues. But I'm not here just to talk, about our business. The reason why I brought this up is because I wanted to make sure you guys know where I'm coming from. I'm very familiar with the issues that we're facing. I do have a security company to cover the majority of our restaurants, especially the restaurants that I'm currently struggling with, which are three main restaurants in the Phoenix area, and it's not working. I'm ready to move forward with spending extra cost and moving forward with hiring police officers, off-duty police officers, just because it's not working. I'm not seeing a difference. I think we're going to a serious society crisis right now with all the mental health issues, drugs issues, prostitution, and homeless issues, and it's just getting worse and worse every time. I'm a mom too as well, and in one of my best memories as a mom, it's going to the parks. Our parks used to be our safe environment. Our parks used to be that place where we used to go and have happy moments. Used to be that place where we can get there and have fun times, family times. We go into swing sets, we go into the play area, we can go for walks. I don't feel that we can do that anymore without feeling the fear of what's going to happen or what's happening a few feet away from us. Someone's doing drugs, someone's sleeping on the side. The bathrooms are not safe to go in there. So if we're going through a severe issue, a crisis issues as a society.
Thank you.
And
Morgan is next in person, followed by David Portugal.
Hi. Can you guys hear me? Thank you so much. I'm kind of struggling with what to say here. This has been a 2-year plus journey for me, dealing with this issue in the park, Perry Park, that is on the same street that I live on. 2 years that I've been begging and advocating for the city to address the rampant crime in my park. 2 years that my child and the children in that community haven't been able to use that park. According to the recent census data, 40% of the children in that neighborhood are below the poverty level. There is affordable housing all up and down that street, and the children there can't use the park that was designed and intended for them. The families can't use it. I was just there today, this afternoon, in broad daylight, and I was propositioned and followed home. I had to run to a local church, and thankfully the doors were open, and I was able to stay there and call a Lyft to take me to my home on the same street, down the street, because I couldn't walk home from my park safely. I don't even know how to begin to explain the trauma this has caused to the residents of our neighborhood, and I don't know how to begin to explain how it feels to have people have no empathy for the residents dealing with this day in and day out. There are violent crimes happening there on a daily basis. We had a shooting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon right next to the playground, and thankfully nobody was hurt, but we are suffering. We are in pain. I am a neighborhood leader, but I am not a solution to this. I'm a single mother. Do you know how many vacations I have missed and meetings that I was supposed to be on and time with my daughter that I am spending to be here, to talk to you, to beg you to do something, that I've spent calling city council, that I've spent trying to get my neighbors to stay engaged and motivated to affect change year after year when nothing happens? And I don't know. I'm at my wit's end, and I'm just begging you to please, please consider the impact on everyone. Thank you.
David is next, and our final, and David is next, and then Ann Ender.
Good afternoon. My name is David Portugal. I'm here in opposition of item number 26. I want to thank Councilwoman Guardado for encouraging everyone to consider this as a human issue and not a numbers issue. For 9 years, I worked in mental and behavioral health with youth who often had mental health and substance use diagnosis. Many of these youth had experienced multiple types of trauma, and many were funneled into our broken foster care system, which often criminalizes them and funnels them right into the justice system. With the lack of social support and a lack of resources, many of these youth age out of the system with the lack of social, employment, and coping skills, as well as a justified lack of hope in the system and society as a whole who fail to protect and serve them. Many inevitably end up unsheltered, and many I know also frequent parks for all the same reasons parks were designed for. As I listen to multiple members of the council cite complaints about safety and speak on behalf of children and families, I can't help but think of all the children and families our system fails on a daily basis by continuing to rely on a punitive police state model. I want to know which studies and research shows a private security force remedies homelessness. What research shows that writing citations remedies addiction? Every month we hear about mental health and wellness calls escalating into Black, Indigenous, and people of color being killed by those sent to help. What type of escalation and racial bias training will these private security force receive? I implore the city council to learn from the city of Houston, which has successfully moved 25,000 people from the streets and into homes of their own using their housing first approach, which is supported by decades of research that moves the most vulnerable people straight from the streets into apartments, not into shelters, and without first requiring to wean them off drugs or complete a 12-step program or find God or find a job. The logic behind that being, when you're drowning, it doesn't help if your rescuer insists you learn to swim before returning you to shore. People can more effectively address their issues once they are on land. The overwhelming majority of these 25,000 formerly houseless people have remained housed after 2 years. Thank you.
Ann is next, and I believe our final speaker will be Chaz Salazar.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Mayor Gallego, Vice Mayor, Pastor, and council members. Ann Ender, I'm a neighborhood leader, and I'm also the president of Operation Blue Ribbon. I support this supplemental measure to promote safety in our public parks. With not only a shortage of police officers, but also park rangers, this effort seems prudent to expand this pilot in order to provide safe parks for citizens. The opposition has been telling us that the parks are available for the unsheltered to use at their leisure and to sleep there overnight. Well, after 3 fires this last week, I beg to differ on that. I also disagree that the security guards will only chase the problem from the parks to the surrounding properties and increase the calls for service to Phoenix PD. Isn't that what we want them to do? Well, don't we want arrests made when there's a crime being committed? I also challenge that the increase of salaries has been the magic wand in recruiting police officers. I don't think that's a fact, and I don't think that money is the solution to everything. But here's a funny story. So during my teenage years, 1975, we used to go to Encano Park Golf Course, hop the fence, and party under the trees. So that tells you how old I am. Anyway, we got chased off by an overnight security guard in golf course. Great, it worked, so it can work today. Lastly, I just want to say that I view this as another resource for Phoenix PD to address crime, just as the 27th Avenue Corridor Plan will address the crime in that corridor. So please vote in favor for providing additional security to our parks. Thank you.
Chaz is next.
Good afternoon. My name is Chaz Salazar. I'm a flutist, teaching artist, and musical activist from South Phoenix. I am here in opposition of item number 26 on the agenda. Community safety is achieved when we have the resources we need to thrive. This now $800,000 request for private security in our parks is a direct attack on our unsheltered relatives by criminalizing them simply for being unsheltered. It's a horrible excuse of a solution under the guise of safety. Private security, AKA police, and policing do not keep us safe. I do not feel safe with police, and I do not trust police. Vote no on this item and instead put this money and more towards addressing the root causes of these issues, the root causes of why people are unsheltered. Put the money towards affordable housing to address the housing crisis. Put it towards services for our unsheltered relatives. Put it towards mental health resources for those who need it. But do not hire a private security company to police our parks. They will only cause further harm to those who need help the most. And also, I want to call attention to a type of harmful behavior that I witnessed by a member of this city council at the meeting on October 12th. Calling someone an idiot for being an BLM type is racist behavior. And let's be clear, racism has no place on any city council. If you do not recognize that this country was founded on the enslavement and genocide of Black and Indigenous people, and that the very systems and structures we operate in which continue to harm and oppress Black and Indigenous people are a continuation of that colonial history, and if you are not actively combating those systems, then you as leaders are not doing your
Roll
job.
call.
I'm sorry.
No.
DeCiccio?
Just really quick, he's referring to me because the BLM is a racist organization, period. And it's a terrorist organization as well, as far as I'm concerned. So at the end of the day, it saddens me because I think Phoenix is on a path, and listening to all this, becoming another Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis. There was a time where children could go into a park and it was safe, and they didn't have to deal with individuals shooting up in the bathrooms and doing those types of things. They didn't have to deal with that. And our parks are becoming unsafe. They really are. And if we can't address that today, I can't let this happen in my own area. I just can't. So from my end of it, I'm a yes, Mayor, but I'm saddened by all of this because this may have been an easy stopgap solution that until we start hiring people to do that, or if we even need to do that. I don't know. I'm not sold on that completely right now. I want to see what this pilot program is, because it is a pilot program, and it is something we have to do immediately. We can't live like this any longer. We can't allow our citizens to live like this. I can't do it. So I'm a strong yes on this, Mayor. I've been a yes on it. I've been wanting to do this for over a year now. And it just saddens me that families have to deal with this and think that it's okay for this to allow to be happening in our city right now. And it should not be allowed. Thank you, Mayor.
Garcia?
No.
Guardado?
No.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes, I want to make some comments, though. I want to thank Karen for pointing out the human factor of all of this, because there's human factors coming into play all the way around. And with those human factors, along with Morgan's story, there's trauma happening throughout our parks. And so my final request is that I want to make sure that I can say and go out to my constituents that our parks are safe. But that isn't the case. And for me, this isn't the solution. I don't want any more Band-Aid solutions. I actually want solid changes. And so I am voting no.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 5-4, substitute motion.
We next go to item 29, which is related to art design at 27th Avenue. Do we have a motion?
I move item 29.
Comments? Roll call.
Ansari?
Yes.
DeCiccio?
No.
Garcia?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yeah.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring?
No.
Pastor? Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 7-2.
Item 30 is membership in Hydrogen Projects Consortium. Motion.
I move item 30.
Second.
Councilman O'Brien for comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm excited about this item and the prospect of hydrogen fuel and power. Hydrogen fuel is something that my office has been researching and studying as an alternative clean energy power source. In our conversations, we've learned that Cummins is close to bringing to market a 100% hydrogen fuel cell engine for heavy-duty vehicles like trash trucks, fire engines, and buses. And I'm hopeful city staff will start researching the capabilities of this new engine and what it could mean for our city's fleet. Better still, in discussions with the private and utility sectors, we've learned the infrastructure we currently use to transport natural gas may be easily converted over to hydrogen fuel transport, meaning the cost of switching over infrastructure to achieve a greener city may be reduced through the use of hydrogen. Lastly, in discussions with ASU and other private sector interests, my office has learned we can use any of our existing and future planned solar arrays to generate our own truly carbon neutral green hydrogen fuel. I'm confident hydrogen fuel will be an integral part of the city's future, and by participating in this consortium and with continued conversations, I hope the city can jump on now as opposed to years after the technology has entered our homes and residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Brien. I join you in being excited about this item. Hydrogen will be an important tool in our decarbonization efforts, including transitioning heavy-duty vehicles from fossil fuels, as you have mentioned. We want to diversify our decarbonization resources so that we're not overly dependent on any one solution. We've learned we can be more resilient and adapt to supply chain and other challenges when we have multiple tools. Our region is well poised to be leaders. We have strong culture of innovation, and we're well equipped to be on the leading edge of hydrogen technology development. In partnership with our utilities, universities, and business partners, such as Nikola, based in South Mountain, we are already developing hydrogen products. We have an incredible opportunity to drive sustainability and create good paying jobs for our residents. This vote is part of a regional consortium, and that will allow us to compete for federal dollars that are currently available, which will position us well for the future. I look forward to supporting it. Councilman DeCiccio.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank you for all the work you did this, and Ann and others that worked on this. Hydrogen is the next fuel. That is the fuel that's really going to transform our economy. We can talk about electric, we can talk about all those things, but hydrogen is the fuel that's going to be doing this. Once we get a distribution system and all the things you got to work through. It will be worked through, though. I'm excited about it. I like the fact that Phoenix is getting involved in this early on. It needs to happen. And I think it's just going to be exciting to see what this is going to be like in the next 20 or 30 years. It's going to take about that long for something really to take hold. And I just appreciate all the work that everybody's put into this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next go to item 55, which is a public hearing related to the southwest corner of Tatum Boulevard and the Loop 101 freeway. Understand we do not need a staff report on it, although we do have staff here. We'll open the public hearing. We don't have anyone registered for public comment. Close the public hearing. Turn to Council Member Waring.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion. Motion to approve per the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
Motion and second. Comments? Roll call.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
That concludes our agendized business. We turn to the final portion of our meeting, which is citizen public comment. Our wonderful city attorney, Chris Meyer, is retiring him, and we thank him for his service for what may be the last time ever. Would you explain citizen public comment?
Thank you, Mayor. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the City Council for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them that are within the jurisdiction of the City Council. The citizen comment session is limited to 30 minutes. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the City Council to listen to the comments, but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the matters presented.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your service to our city, and we look forward to welcoming Julie Cree when we next convene. We will begin public comment with Maria Barbosa, followed by David Borg.
Mi nombre es María Barbosa y estoy aquí porque nos habían dado un contrato de 4 años. Yo vivo en las trailas de la 18 Avenida y la Bacay.
My name is Maria Barbosa, and I'm here because I was given a 4-year contract. I live at the trailers at 18th Avenue.
Nos dieron el contrato el 10 de octubre y el viernes recibimos una carta que nos
And they
tenemos
gave
que
us the
salir.
contract on the 10th of October, and on Friday they gave us a letter.
Y el viernes recibimos la carta que nos tenemos que salir el 1 de mayo.
And on Friday we got that letter indicating that we needed to vacate by May 1st.
Y pues él nomás está jugando con nosotros, ya nos tiene todas traumadas a los niños, a todos nos está haciendo daño porque ya andábamos contentos que teníamos el contrato de 4 años.
And they're just playing around with us. They have us all traumatized, our kids, and they're just causing damage to us. They had already given us hope, giving us 4 years.
Y ahorita están otros compañeros que se tienen que salir el día 30 de este mes. ¿Y a dónde nos
And we have
vamos a
other
ir?
neighbors that they have to vacate by the 30th of this month.
Y ahorita la preocupación de nosotros, ¿a dónde nos vamos a ir? Pues todos, con niños y ancianos, todos los que estamos ahí.
And so right now, our concern is, where are we going to be going? All the kids, all the neighbors, the elderly, everybody.
Y pues ahorita los niños también andan bien mal de su cabeza, igual que nosotros, porque pues piensan a dónde nos vamos a salir.
And also the kids their state of mind is just not right. And we're all just wondering, where are we going to go to?
Gracias.
Thank you.
David is next, followed by Martha Gutierrez.
Yes, hello. I am with the Periwinkle mobile home people here. My name is David Borg. I live in Mesa. I am a member of Unite Here Local 11, and I take the well-being of my community very seriously. And I consider anyone who has to live paycheck to paycheck, who's renting out where they live, and who works for a wage, a member of my community, because we live very similar lives. We have to deal with very, very similar issues. When I first moved here, I moved to, in the city, I moved to Tempe, and I was very quickly thrown out because the people who owned our apartments sold it to a luxury developer, and suddenly we had nowhere else to go. We found another place to go live, but the rent was $200 higher. It was in disrepair, and our rent's going to be increasing by another $300 by the end of this year. This is a big issue that everyone in this city has to deal with. Where are we going to live? How are we going to pay rent? And the people at Periwinkle are facing something I can't even imagine. Their entire community is being disrupted by GCU buying up the entire property. And it's something that their community is something so rare, something like people actually like working together, like they know each other, they help each other, they're here fighting for their community. You don't see that too often. This is something that's beautiful, and I really think that Phoenix can set precedent in making this city one that supports tenants, one that supports workers, one that supports people who want to build community, rather than one that wants to support developers or for-profit universities. ridiculous that I think we even have to be here. Thank you.
Martha is next, followed by Dr. Sylvia Herrera.
Silvia Herrera.
Buenas tardes.
Good evening.
Mi nombre es Marta Gutiérrez.
My name is Marta Gutierrez.
Yo soy una madre de familia que vive actualmente en el parqueadero de trailers de la avenida 19.
I'm the mother of a family. I currently live at the trailers that are on 19th Avenue
En el parqueadero de las casitas,
at Las Casitas Trailer Park.
el cual nosotros tenemos ahí viviendo aproximadamente 16 años, pero hay familias que tienen de 30, 25 años viviendo ahí.
I've been living there for 16 years, but there's also other families that have been living there for about between 25 and 30 years.
Yo en lo personal tengo aproximadamente 30 días para desalojar. No sé
Me personally, I have
a dónde me voy a ir a
approximately
vivir
30 days to vacate.
con mi familia.
I have nowhere to go to with my family.
Para abandonar allí tenemos los 30 días. Si en 6 meses no puede uno conseguir una vivienda, imagínese usted en 30 días.
We have 30 days to vacate there. Can you imagine there's people that struggle to vacate in 6 months? Can you just imagine that?
Usted sabe la crisis por la que estamos pasando actualmente. Nosotros
You know the
somos
crisis that we're currently going through.
familias de bajos recursos
Low-income families.
y con estas crisis tan fuertes que tenemos, no tenemos un fondo de ahorro para buscar una vivienda inmediatamente.
With this big crisis that we're going through right now, we don't have savings to be able to look for another place.
Les pedimos de antemano que se pongan la mano en el corazón para que nos ayuden a encontrar un lugar digno para nuestras familias. Muchas gracias y que Dios los bendiga.
And we ask you, with your hand to your heart, and with my hand to my heart, with all dignity and respect, that you help us in this crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And one moment, please. We cannot respond to public comment, but we can say things that are scheduled and moving forward, I think. So no?
The task force.
There's information online about what we're doing here.
Yes.
Okay.
You can direct the city manager to respond to people, but the council can't do it, or to talk with them.
Okay, so.
Well, could we just, I would like to ask if someone on the staff could catch people as they're leaving, just to give them an update of where we're at with the task force?
Okay. And Dr. Herrera, we just, and knowing that we can't respond, Vice Mayor.
I would ask the city manager to also bring a team of departments together to try to assist the situation and be able to help.
And thank you to Dr. Herrera. The floor is yours. And then now, followed by Cindy Humes.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members, Dr. Herrera. First, I'd like to acknowledge our ancestors that came before us and stood up and are guiding us on this path to justice. And to this day, we have the grandmas, we have the aunts, we have the veterans, the elderly, the older people in our community that are guiding us as well, from the casitas to Weldon Court to the GCU Periwinkle Mobile Home Park. They've committed to fight for a basic human right, and that's their home, where they're secure and they have a safe environment and community. The residents of the 3 mobile home parks have made a commitment to have this type of housing that's affordable for them. And now they're being told to vacate their most secure and safe environment and community that they've established over the decades. The city has also committed to explore solutions for the residents. But the question is, does the city have the will to find a solution? That is the commitment that the residents are asking for. Where there's a will, there's a way, but we need that will in order to move forward to find these solutions, and we need to work on this together, and we will continue to come forth with the residents as well to make that request until the request has been acknowledged and we find a solution to this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Cindy next, and then we'll go online to Christina before coming back to Estrella.
Hello. Thanks for letting me speak. Following some very sad stories. My main concern is the homeless, and it's very sad. I was doing some math, and if I'm correct, it's less than 1% of our population. From what I see, Phoenix is 1.6 million, and our homeless is about 10,000. And although my heart bleeds for them, it's a very dangerous situation for them, and it's a very dangerous situation for the city. And I've thought many times, and I'm not too far from the meth clinic on 28th and Cactus, and I don't know what the answers are, but I know that that's not productive, and the homeless gravitate to that area. And I know that I personally don't go shopping at night for a reason. And even in riding my bike on a Sunday afternoon before 1 o'clock, someone came up with a bike beside me. And anyway, it was just a concerning situation. I'm asking that we follow Glendale's lead and stop the panhandling, because it doesn't get these people off the street. It encourages to stay on the street. And we have a beautiful city, but it's being covered with trash. And my friends and I go out regularly and pick up trash, but we're one little team, so we don't make a lot of impact. And I'm thinking maybe we could do a citywide cleanup and encourage everybody to get on board. And sadly, money has been a big comment today, but we can't pay the people off the streets. And the security guards that they're wanting, we're always talking about the rangers, the security guards that would be hired are Phoenix citizens too. So I appreciate your time, and I'll be praying for wisdom for all of us.
Christina Tyler, followed by Estrella Gutierrez.
Hi, this is Christina Tyler. I don't know if I'm supposed to speak now, but I'm actually trying to talk about a completely different issue that I'm bringing up. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to speak now or not.
This is the appropriate time for
Hello?
general city business.
Hello?
Please go ahead. This is the right time for general city business. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I'm trying to speak on is I'm a first aid CPR AED instructor with the American Red Cross, and I ran into a situation where 911 was actually called on me because I was vomiting so much to where I was choking and gasping for air. What happened when paramedics came out there is that they did not wear any PPE, no gloves, no mask. They did not even, they cut me off when I was trying to explain my medical history, and they also did not ask questions regarding symptoms. what was all the biggest concern, even more than just those, is that they didn't follow House Bill 2431. And the reason why I am choosing to speak at this board meeting is because as an instructor with the Red Cross, and I've even tried escalating this with the Red Cross as well as different departments within the state, there currently isn't any department or any certification course that a person could actually learn about their rights when it comes to House Bill 2431, that they have the right to accept or decline emergency transportation, and also they have the right to not be counseled when it comes to if they should have emergency medical transportation. I was misdiagnosed with having a fever, and even my own doctor, which I had spoken to previous to paramedics, even said that I was showing signs of COVID. It turned out I had COVID. These paramedics are still responding to calls as we speak, and most likely not wearing PPE, and have now contaminated several people with COVID. And I would like it to where at our different libraries as well as different public facilities, to where House Bill 2431, that there is a form that tells people of their right to be able to accept or decline transportation and to not be counseled for emergency medical transportation. The biggest concern if House Bill 2431 is not followed, and coming from being a first aid CPR AD instructor with the Red Cross, is that if it is not followed, the concern is that.
Thank you so much. We will ask our team to follow up with you and see if we can get more information to address this situation. Estrella is next, followed by Salvador Reza.
Good evening, Mayor, City Mayor, and members of the City Council. My name is Estrella Gutierrez, and I'm a resident at Periwinkle Mobile Park. Right now, currently going through relocation at the moment because of them trying to rebuild or build things in that area. It's a hard situation for most of us because most of us don't have the funds to get a new place for our families. Most of us there have children under the age of 13. You know, my youngest is 6. And we're struggling a lot with all of this right now. They are wanting us to relocate, yet they are failing to provide a place for us to live in, or at least a decent amount for us to be able to provide for our family a new home. And not only that, but they are also failing to provide security and safety for us at the park at the moment. And last night we had an incident where there was some squatters coming into the house next to mine. Personally, it was the house next to the one I live in, and they were there, and the cops were called, and nobody did nothing about it. We called GCU to let them know, and they didn't care much about it. They said they were not trying to prosecute or proceed with nothing. And it's, you know, I stay there late at night. My husband goes to work around 12:30 a.m. and I stay there all night by myself, and those people there saw that we had called the cops on them, and you know, now I feel threatened because they saw we were the ones calling the cops on them, and they couldn't do nothing about it. So it's sad that we have to live in that area where they want us out, and they also can't provide any sort of any type of security for us. We asked them to patrol the area, yet they failed to do so, and at the moment, that's what we are facing. So that's it.
Thank you for that important testimony. Salvador Reza, followed by Alondra Ruiz.
My name is Salvador Reza, and I guess we're here again for the same reasons, but even more dire. The landlords stoop to anything and everything to get rid of the residents. We were able to secure them thanks to the community legal services and also the IDA, we were able to secure them a 4 and a 1 year contract. Well, everybody was so happy because we were able to secure, and they negotiated like if it was true, and they actually made them go all the way to Mesa so that they could pay the rent and take the contracts. And then 2 weeks later, they come in and they say, hey, by the way, I want you out in 180 days, or I want you out in 60 days. Can you imagine the shock to all the little kids and everybody else? So that's the level of, I would call them predators that are coming in to take over the place. Those are the predators that we are protecting, and not yourself, but the laws of the state of Arizona are protecting because they have the right. Now, when we talk to the attorneys about probably, getting for breach of contract or also for bad faith contracts, the attorneys say, well, we have to look at it because, it's the state of Arizona law that, if you do a change of use, you do that. He knew it all the time. He knew all the time that he wasn't going to respect that contract. Just he went through the motions of that contract. And, you're talking about a foreign corporation, a Carew corporation, that wasn't even legal when they gave him the first order to leave. And now these guys are protected under the state of Arizona law. Now, the city of Phoenix, I was able to look into, just browse through the draft proposals, and they're basically saying that they're not going to challenge the state of Arizona with the cases at the Ninth Circuit Court, where they actually trump the state of Arizona and basically allows the state or the cities to actually create mobile home park zones. So they basically say they cannot do anything about it, and that's your proposal. They basically, repeat the same thing. We're going to help them with this, we're going to help them with that, we're going to help them with that. Well, if we had waited until then, a lot of these people in 30 days would be without a home. Luckily, we have IDA that stepped up, and they're looking for places right now. Just as we speak, they're looking for places. And that's the type of response we need. We need quick response. We cannot be, if we wait too long, in a month, there's nothing we can do about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alondra is next.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. I am Alondra Ruiz from Periwinkle Mobile Home Park, where we are still being displaced by Grand Canyon University, who is practically prioritizing profit over human beings. I hope that you guys don't do the same thing, and that we can find some help, that you guys can look into resources of what we can do so that we don't become homeless. We are all low-income, hardworking families, and we are being displaced from our homes only with the 6-month notice. Luckily, we were able to extend those times to May 28th, but what's really frustrating to me now is that Grand Canyon University hired a company named Trellis, and Trellis is constantly, almost on a daily basis, calling our elderly folks now, and that's very heartbreaking to me because I've been blessed to have a mom that's 87 years old that's still alive, and I would never want anybody harassing her over things that confuse her. Even spam calls confuse her, and she thinks that they're important, and she's. But now what Trellis is doing and what Grand Canyon University is doing, they're calling our elderly almost on a daily basis, telling them that they know of other people that are moving sooner and that they should also do the same thing. And this is really confusing our elderly. They are a very vulnerable population within our mobile home park, and GCU is taking advantage of that. That's very evil of them. And then they're using Trellis to do it as well, to be making all these calls. So I'm here again to please ask you to help us find resources of how we can all not end up being homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Chad Kroger.
What up, dudes? We are in massive student debt. My degree in philosophy from Arizona State, while intellectually nourishing, has not translated to dough. Being in the red sticks in your dome. It's like a dense marine layer cloud just filling up your mind, which makes it tougher to see the nice life sets rolling through. I've heard from politicians on the left and right that they can't get rid of student debt because it'll cause inflation. But something has to be done. And I think we got the solution. As long as you're paying money, you still get to be in college. I'm talking student section free tickets to the football games, entry to frat parties free of age discrimination, which we think could really be a boost. Meal plan at one of the dank cafeterias so I can load up on tasty burritos, and access to the gym where I once played a pickup game against James Harden. Council, this will get Americans fired up. Citizens will be able to enjoy the fruits of college, which will give us the stoke boost needed to earn some jing and pay off our shit. If the good times never end, the hard times never exist.
Please watch your language.
Let's be students for life. Thank you.
Sorry for cursing. It added effect.
JT Parr will be our last speaker.
That's me. Good to see you again. What up, Council? I'm here in support of Chad Kroger's idea. We were offered translation, but we were worried some of the lingo would get lost. So I am going to do the speech in Spanish because we want everyone to feel included and get hyped on this idea. I am Colombian, although most people think I'm Jewish. ¿Qué pasa, amigos? Tenemos una deuda estudiantil masiva. Mi título en filosofía del estado de Arizona ha sido bueno para mi intelecto, pero no me ha producido ganancias. Estar endeudado es estresante. Es como una densa capa marina que nubla tu mente, lo que hace que sea más difícil ver cómo se desarrolla la vida agradable. Escucha de políticos de izquierda y derecha que no pueden distanciarse de la deuda estudiantil porque causa problemas, pero hay que hacer algo y creo que tenemos el solution. Mientras estás pagando dinero, te puedes quedar en universidad. Me refiero a entradas gratuitas para la sección de las estudiantes para todos los partidos de fútbol, entrada a fiestas sin discriminación por edad, lo que creemos que podría ser realmente un impulso. Plan de comidas en una de las cafeterías húmedas para poder cargar burritos sabrosos y acceso al gimnasio donde una vez juega contra James Harden. Council, los ciudadanos podrán disfrutar de los frutos de la universidad, lo que nos dará el impulso necesario para ganar dinero y pagar nuestra mierda. Si los buenos tiempos nunca terminan, los tiempos difíciles nunca existen. Seamos estudiantes de por vida. Gracias.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
sock hop right there with the little diner costume. So cute. I'm sorry, Arrow. Cute, correction. Next up, we have Sharon Martin with her old English sheepdog, Abby. And Abby has been with us since the very first class. Look how cute. Matching poodle skirts. I didn't get the memo, otherwise I would have dressed up with you girls. Yes, she knows what to do. Next up we have Tracy Stofflet with her English bulldog, Evelyn. And Evelyn has been with us for 4 years. And although Evelyn's main goal for being here is to help our customers,